My name is Cameron Collins. I'm a revenue operations strategist with RevPartners. I'm a community manager with Sprocketeer, the largest independent community for HubSpot admin. And Mark, I know I always introduce you, but I'll let you introduce yourself before we bring our guests on.
Well, very exciting. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Lerner. I'm the Director of Growth Marketing at DealHub. We are a configure, price, quote solution, native integrations with various CRMs, including HubSpot. Love being the co-host here every week. It's the thing.
And it's always exciting when we get to have our guests on. And Sasha, I'm going to let you go ahead and intro yourself. But the one thing I will say is this guy is an absolute animal when it comes to building awesome websites, doing all kinds of really cool stuff on just everything from building the site to SEO stuff, which we're actually going to be sharing today and showing you some practical tips. And we're going to be breaking down the site live. But Sasha, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I don't think I need an introduction after that. I think you just have a different frame of reference because I'm the only developer that you work with. And so I try to do the best I can, and I try to take my time and cross all the T's and dot all the I's. I think there's a ton of developers out there that are way better than me, and I learn from them. And I'm learning things every day. This week, HubSpot custom quote template kicked my ass. There's so many things about it that I thought would just take a little bit of time, be really easy, and ended up taking 8 hours for one seemingly simple little tiny thing.
I got a good solution.
Anyway. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, anyways, nice to meet everybody. Thanks for having me here. I guess to introduce myself, I am Sasha. And I'm a web designer, web developer, and I used to work in sales and then did a little bit of RevOps, and now I'm fully a technologist at RevPartners.
And you mentioned something that's really important, the whole crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and really just taking your time with it. Because I think anyone who has seen any of your content on LinkedIn or has even just tried building a website knows that a button isn't just a button. It's one of my favorite things that you've talked about in the past. You want to update a button and it really takes hours because one change affects so many other things. When it comes to breaking down a site, we could talk about it all day, but let's go ahead and pull up. We actually have a live account that I know you've seen the public version, but this is going to be your first time actually going in on HubSpot and looking at things on the back end. Kept it as a little bit of a surprise, but let's go ahead and without further ado, do a breakdown and pick a website apart and just look at it through the lens of a web developer.
Sweet. Yeah.
We've got HubSpot up on the screen.
I don't want you to see my searches of muscular Shrek.
We do see the side thing there, but I don't know if
that's cool. That's fine.
Okay.
I love it. Advertising arc a little bit. What's the name? What's the website URL?
So we're going to be doing Amber Collins Holistic Health.com. Is correct. So before we get into HubSpot, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this. Is a site, by the way, just so everyone watching knows, I put it together, which I am clearly not an amazing web developer, but I put it together rather quickly. And the purpose right now is to see how can we go through here and what improvements would you make? So on the output, what we'll do is log into HubSpot and actually see how do we make those improvements. But I'm sure you've got some pretty clear thoughts on how we could improve the site.
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts. Where to even start? Okay, so there's 2 pages on here right now. So that's pretty much it. The first thing to understand about making websites, and the first question I have is, what is the purpose of this website? What is the goal?
So let's say the goal is to develop a brand, a personal brand around health and wellness. And the end goal is to allow contacts to subscribe to the blog or newsletter, which I know right now is listed below, but I'm sure that you probably have a suggestion to have a CTA above the fold.
Okay, so the goal is to build a brand around health and wellness and to get people to subscribe to a blog or newsletter. At what point is this person gonna try to make money? Are they doing it as a hobby just for fun, or are they hoping to get clients? Because it looks like.
Yeah, so let's say that maybe this is a goal of making money 6 months down the road. So there is an opportunity right now for generating leads, generating a wait list, collecting emails.
Okay.
But if we were to look at this instance, it's not something that would have a purchase now option.
Okay. Sounds good. Cool. So there's no blog. There's just a homepage and
And there is a
about.
blog at the bottom with
Oh, this
one
is it?
newsletter.
Is this the blog?
Yeah, that's the blog post. So there's one
Okay.
blog with one post.
Okay. Got it. Because you can see just by the fact that I didn't know that this was the blog, that's something that could be improved. Yeah, I didn't know that's what this was. I just looked right over it. So let's talk about improvements that we could make here. First thing that jumps out to me, I was just going from the top, is the logo is tiny. It looks like there may be some text in the logo, but I can't tell. Let me zoom in. Okay, there's no text in the logo. So there is a small line at the bottom, which I thought was text. But either way, this logo is pretty high resolution. It's nice and beautiful. And so I think we can make it stand out a little bit more by incorporating it into the background here. Maybe make her photo here a lot bigger. Take this pink rectangle here, make her bigger so that the boundaries of the rectangle is what crops her out. And she's not just cut out here. And then I would take this logo and put it back there behind her, blown up. Then the next thing I would do is look at the fonts. I'm going to resist the urge to change everything to a sans serif font, because I think these like old school type fonts do have a place, but I would want to make this just a little bit more readable. What I want to do now is see if maybe I can change some of the CSS here on this side, and then we're going to put it into the HubSpot editor and see how, and then push the changes live. I have a plugin I really like for editing websites on the fly. It's called StyleBot. It's a really great Chrome extension, and it opens up a sidebar. And it's got this basic editor, which I never use because I got used to the code. But the basic editor is great for learning what CSS does and how it works. Because what you can do is click this select button here, and then when you hover over elements, there you're going to see their boundaries. And when you click on something, you're going to be able to modify it. So for instance, let's just try this. What I want to do is line up this blog post with the rest of the website, with the boundaries of the site. So I'm going to click there. Now that element is selected, and let's see. So this green box corresponds to the padding. So I want to modify the padding. Let's see what happens if I type 0. So now this is lined up left, and we can do it on the right side as well, because if I shrink the window, we're going to want some padding on the left or right. And it looks like there's actually no padding when it becomes really small. So what we actually want to do is add padding to the other elements rather than removing it from these. So let's try that.
The attention to detail here is pretty incredible. I don't know about you, Mark, but I'm looking at this I didn't even notice that we had the two boxes that were misaligned on the screen.
Oh, no, I did. I noticed it. I was playing around with, what's it called? The developer tools on Chrome, which is a similar idea to what's happening here. But
I love the developer tools on Chrome. I'm going to show you why this plugin is magic in just a second. When I was trying to select things, I had this box, took off the padding. I didn't like that. But then these elements here are different elements. So I'm going to have to select the entire container of this. But this container already has padding, and it disappears on mobile. So I'm going to go one step out and select this one. And this is the one where I added padding. I added 16 pixels to each side, because that's typically the font size for normal websites by default. And then
I'm going to go to make them flexbox through this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
That's the magical trick in CSS.
And describe a flex box for
Oh man,
those of us laymen who aren't quite as familiar.
I don't think anybody should know what a flex box is.
how would you explain it?
A flex box.
I think it allows you to make multiple different elements relate to each other so that you don't have to change them individually. Is that kind of a way to explain it?
Yeah, anything that is web related, I type the word cheat sheet afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I get nice, really visual explainers for everything. So a flex box, I think this is probably the best way to explain it to somebody who's never heard of the concept before, but it allows you to.
Does that make sense now?
I know I get it, and I hope everyone who's listening, potentially on Spotify, this is a very visual heavy episode. So just a descriptor here. If you're building a website, for example, and you have different elements of the website, different sections of it, the Flexbox acts as like a master container.
Yes.
So that instead of having to edit all of the sections independently, you have that one big container that you can just expand or squish.
Allows fluid layouts. By default, everything on a website stacks up and down. There's really not a lot of side to side going on. It's like a Word document where if you want to have something side by side, you have to give it like a special like property or some kind of something on it. You have to set it so that stuff displays side by side. By default, web pages, they're not like a canvas. They're more like a chain where things are like linked. They're like you put one thing at the top and then you put something below that, and they're like linked together and they stack up and down. So if you want things side by side, one way to do that is to use a Flexbox. And the cool thing about Flexbox is that when you have too many elements side by side, they wrap. They start wrapping to the next line. That is like the default behavior of a Flexbox, but you can do a lot with a Flexbox. You can spread all the elements apart. You can center them. You can add like different spaces between them. It's a really powerful layout tool, but it's also very confusing when you first start working with it. So for that reason, I don't recommend just throwing Flexbox on everything. But yeah, I also really like Grid. It has become my go-to other than Flexbox. There's two different ways to lay things out. There's Grid and there's Flexbox. And I don't think there's really enough time today to discuss those, but they're really awesome. Anyways, going back to this website example here, now we have this blog post and this bottom part aligned. And in this tab here in the plugin, I'm going to click code, and this plugin generates the code that we need. So now it has like the selectors there and then the selectors here. So we remove the padding for the what's called the recent blog post item. And so when we get ready to push these changes, we would just copy and paste this into like our CSS files, which I'll show you how to do.
I was about to say, let's go ahead and hop into HubSpot and show everyone how you would do that.
Yes. Before I do that,
more modifications.
I want to do just a couple more things. And in this case, this is where I'm going to use the dev tools. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds here because we can be here all day if I go into super detail with how to like lay everything out. But what I want to do now is to just increase the font size on some of these things. So I'm gonna inspect, and I'm gonna take a look and see what is driving the text. What is setting the text font size? So I'm going to see. I think I want to just make this bigger. And I think I want to make this bigger too. So I want to see if they're the same thing. And I don't know if you can see this very well. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. This one is wrapped in these like P tags. The P stands for paragraph, and it's the most commonly used element on websites. There's just like the default plain text, usually wrapped in a paragraph tag, because paragraphs have spacing below and at the top of them, and they inherit styles, and they're very useful for setting styles globally. So I'm going to click here on the styles tab and scroll down, and I think I see where the font family is coming from. So this font is Cormorant. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And where is the size being set? Let me scroll down more. font size is set by the body. So that means that the body is controlling the font size. If I change the font size here in the inspector, boost it up to 30 pixels, for example, it's gonna change actually a lot of these elements. So we're changing a lot of these things at once.
Cameron, did you build this with HubSpot CMS, like with a?
I did, using their free platform. So this is HubSpot Content Hub, paying for nothing. Just let's see what happens if we put a site together. How far can a lay person get, and then what can we do with some of Sasha's magic touch on the fly?
I think I may be getting a little too in the weeds here with my developer magic. If this is to be helpful to most people, what we want to do is actually go into HubSpot and make these changes.
Let's do it. Yeah, so I added you just before our show today. I added you as a super admin, and I'm curious to see how you tackle a couple specific things that you mentioned. So number one was the logo. And this is something that I was playing with where if I made it bigger, then like the whole header got bigger and it just started to look weird. Same thing with the picture. I couldn't figure out how to just make the picture bigger and make it line up like how you were describing. So those I think are practical things that you probably could fix pretty quickly and easily that I spent quite a bit of time just trying to figure out how do I make this picture sized any differently.
I see. Okay. So this is a custom module here. It looks like called Hero Banner. Just I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. In HubSpot, this here, contents, shows you what's on your website. So as you scroll down through or like you mouse over, the elements will be selected that you're editing. So the very first thing, except for the header, which is up there, is a section. And then inside every section is a column always. And then you have the hero banner. So that tells me there's nothing else in this like header section. But because it has a name, that tells me it's a module, right? If I click into that module, there it is. If I click add here, this is how I add new modules. And there's a ton of different modules. And usually I stick to the ones provided by the theme itself, unless it's very common elements like text and buttons and images. If I click show more, I can see all the different modules that this theme provides. And these are all custom modules that the theme creator has provided. So there's the hero banner right there. I don't actually want to use this hero banner because they have opinions about how this is going to be laid out. Maybe this layout works for what they were intended, but if you're using a different kind of image, it may not let you do what you want to it. On here, I can change the different settings, and I can see here, maybe you even, I don't know if you tried to increase the size of the image here, but you increased the maximum size, and the size is here set to automatically adjust. Let's see what happens if we click exact width and height, and then click apply the changes there. So now it is still nothing happened. Maybe it's a bug with the way that the module was coded. So what we'll do instead is to swap this out for a regular drag and drop section.
I was going to ask, so it sounds like you have more flexibility if you more so rebuild it manually, but then set it up exactly how you want, as opposed to using just the default.
Yeah, it really depends. Honestly, let me make the window a little bit bigger. Honestly, sometimes it works fine, but if you want to do custom stuff, you may end up not being able to. And there's a lot of stuff that you can build with just the basic HubSpot provided modules. So if I click add here and I go to layouts, usually modules is first, and then sections, you get some pre-made sections. It looks like the theme has provided us with a couple. None of these work for our purposes. So I'll click layouts, and what I want is a 2-column layout. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it there. And now we have placeholder. So go back to add modules. And on the left side here, we have text. On the right side here, we have an image. So let's see if that's what we want to do. We'll add text, and I always use rich text because you can do anything with rich text. The other text options are limited. And so I'll go there copy that and select everything, paste it in, and we come across our first kind of quirk, copying, pasting. I'm not going to increase the font size altogether because this has to do with Google loves you to have at least one heading 1 level tag on every single page. So we're not going to go here to the font size and make it bigger because technically this is still a paragraph. So if somebody is coming to your website and they have a screen reader or they're blind, or maybe a crawler is reading your website, a search engine, or anything like that, then it's going to think that this text has as much importance as any other paragraph. So this is not a heading. So what we want to do is go here and click this button. It's a little T with an X beside it to clear the style. And then on the left side here, paragraph, we'll choose heading 1. And now this automatically is a heading tag, and Google loves it. And so you got to use heading 1 is really important. And then heading 2 is for anything else. So basic rule of thumb is don't use the font size, use the heading levels when you want to do things differently visually, especially when you want to have a hierarchy of information. So
And is it best practice to only have, for example, one H1 tag as opposed to multiple
yes,
on a page?
Having more than one H1 is a big no. You
yeah,
can have multiple H2s and 3s, but more than one H1 is a big no.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why that was decided, because intuitively a lot of people want to use really big headlines all over the website. They end up using more than one H1, especially people who aren't developers and they're content editors. They use a lot of H1s because it's just the biggest one. And so sometimes you want big text and you think, oh, I'm going to make this an H.
It was for the bot that scans sites, I think, initially didn't look at the size. It looked at like you said, the hierarchy of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have an H1 that is a font size 2 and an H3 that's a font size 55, but it saw it as H1 being the main topic and everything else being like subtopics. That was the schema the search engine would look at. I'm assuming today it's become much more.
I guess the takeaway is if everything's important, nothing is important.
Said. Very well said. So yeah, I want to show like what it looks like when you view the accessibility tree of a website, but there's not enough time for that. Let's go ahead and add the image. I'm going to go here, click there, and see what's the image there that we're using. What's the name of it? I guess I don't need to because there's only a couple of image files, but normally there's tons in every HubSpot portal, and you want to see what the name is, but we don't need to do that. We'll just go ahead and click add, and then find where's the image. Oh, I really don't want to open up all of these and look through. I just want an image. Okay, let's just search for one. Image, there we go, found one. Drag it there, and then click replace here. I'll hover over which one is bigger. I guess they're both the same size. We'll click there, and then always change the alt text because Google hates it when you don't have alt text or not descriptive alt text. It really helps people who are blind as well. People, it's good for accessibility. So you always got to add your alt text. I will put a smiling woman holding a book. And this image is still small, but we know it's big. Like we can tell it's huge here. I'll set the maximum size. No, I'll set the size to exact width and height. And let's see, can we make it bigger? Width and height. I wonder, is it because the image itself has a big area around it? That's why.
Yes. I'm almost positive you can see. You want to cut it down so that.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. So we'll go there. If anybody missed it, I clicked into the file details here, and then clone and edit allows you to crop it.
Whoa. I had no idea you could do that.
Yep. Crop it all the way down. Now, most of the time when someone's creating a website, this kind of work is going to be done in something like Figma before the actual development of the site happens.
Yes. But we don't all have the luxury of using Figma. And I guess like the whole purpose of today's session is to give some people like things that anybody can do. So you don't need Figma or Canva to make great websites. You can do a lot of stuff yourself. If you just explore what all you can do. I know not everybody has time for that, but you can do a lot with just basic HubSpot tools. And guess what? It's free. It's like the website builder is fully functional, fully featured. You can add custom things to it for absolutely free.
Everything we're doing today is based on the totally free HubSpot account. And I'm curious because I know we were able to resize this image. Are you able to add the pink background if you wanted that pink block? So would it still be better to do this in the custom session or section that we have here?
No, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually something I think a lot of people don't know about. But the first thing I want to do is center this text like we have it here. So if you see, as you can see, if I'm mousing around, I'm like selecting different sections. And if I'm inside some content, it's trying to select the module that I'm in. And you see these little handles, these little tabs up above what I want to select. So in this case, this is going to be a section. If I click that, or if I click into it, I can see the sections for the settings for the section. And I want to do alignment and spacing. And this is where you can use visibility, and you can hide that section if you want, or change the background color or the image or gradient or whatever. What I want right now is just alignment, and I'm going to put it to the middle. And then what I want to do is get rid of the space above her and below her. I'm going to look at the padding and margin here. I'm going to use a padding of 0. Top and the bottom. And so now she's right up against the top there, the top edge. Okay. I want to click into something else to change the selection. And then I'm going to click on her image there. And then a little bit slightly outside, if I mouse over, you can see there's 2 different elements. This container for the image here is called a column. And the image is always going to be, like any module, is going to be inside a column. And the column itself, I can add a background to it. So that's the background there. What's the background? Luckily, we already have something in favorites. So now she's there. And now I have the pink background on her, and it's bigger. And so let's see, let's move this out just a little bit. What else do I want to do here? I think I may want to maybe extend that pink there a little bit. So what I may do is make this section full width. But now we have an issue. I'll zoom out a little bit. Now this text is all the way over there. So how do we fix that? We could do a couple of different things. One is we could add padding to the left side. If I select that style, the text block, and there's a content here, which doesn't matter right now because it's a rich text, it's up here. But I click styles, and alignment and spacing will let me add some padding here. So it's something, if I add something like 80 pixels, it's going to move that way, and I'll zoom out. Still not really there. So I'll undo that. I think I like this look here with just the pink just that way. It doesn't necessarily have to spill out to the edge. But what I could do is go and make an image and set that as the background. So a quick, easy way to do that, I'm going to clone this section, and I'm just going to take a screenshot without the image, make this really large, and then click preview, open up in a new tab. Oh, it's hidden for some reason. It doesn't matter. So this is what we want here, right? We want white on the left, pink on the right. So I'll take a screenshot using my screenshot tool. Pretty easy. And drag it to my desktop. Okay, so then we'll go back, and I'm going to select the section itself and go down here to background, choose image, and I can drag that image right in there. And then let's see, resize to fill container, or do we want to display full size? No. Resize to show entire image? No, we don't want that either. We want to resize to fill the container. Yeah. And it's a little bit different color because of, for some reason, I guess my screenshot tool doesn't capture the colors exactly how they are. I think it gets filtered through my screen, but that's okay. What we can do then is go into the column here.
Oh, it looks like 3-dimensional.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, maybe that's a look that you might be going for. I don't know. You might end up liking it, but I'm going to select the column again, and I'm having a little bit of trouble. Like sometimes I can't like get these like guides to show up. So if that ever happens to you, you can always go here to the contents and find where that thing is that you're trying to edit and select it from there. So in this case, there's my image. There's the column I want to pick. And I'll just change the background type to none again. And now we have that like that other background, and we have her here, and it's spilling out, and it's looking the way we want. And we can delete this section here at the bottom. And maybe I can crop this even more. So if I don't want it to be like that tall, I can just crop it a little bit more, crop and resize. So that looks fine. Looks a little bit better, and maybe I can make it a little bit smaller or have it automatically adjust and set the maximum size to custom. So the biggest I want it, let's say, is the widest I want this image is 400. And so it's still bigger than what we had. You can see her a lot better. You connect with the person a lot easier because you see their face, you see them smiling, you kind of land on this website, you know what this is about. And now we're ready to get rid of this other section here. So we don't need it anymore. It's gone. We have an empty one here, also gone. Out with it. What happened?
It looks like the pink disappeared.
The pink is gone. Let's refresh the page. Maybe that'll help. That'll help. And I cut her head off a little bit here when I was cropping. We would, if we were to go back, we could fix that. I could spend hours and hours just tweaking little minor things here and there. So now I'll go to down to this bottom section. What would I do in this case is I like this logo. I'm not a fan of how there's a huge section with nothing going on here. So there's two things we can do. One, I'm going to clone it just for convenience. One is delete this column here. Now this is front and center. Go down here. Man, that's some loud typing. Type fast typer. Sorry. This section here, dragged it up. This is a nice, very beautiful, pretty image. And we can, since it already has its own padding, I'm going to go into the section settings here and remove the padding. So it's just, so we just get the image to just tighten up the spacing a little bit. And we can see what this would look like if we zoom out. As looking at the page as a whole always helps. So you can see it like a picture, like a painting. This is real art we're doing here, guys. This is very serious.
I will say it really is art, and the attention to detail is incredible because the way you're able to come up with screenshotting the background of the previous section that we had and using that behind the image, just it's no wonder that when customers or clients or partners may ask for what they think is a simple change, in reality there's a lot of complex thought that goes into it. How clearly you could do this pretty quickly on your own, but how much thought goes into just resizing an image and getting it to fit in the pink box.
Yeah. That's a good point that you mentioned. That there's a lot of things that go behind it. I mean, the screenshot thing, I'd never done that before. I just thought of it while we were doing. And the more you do this kind of thing, the more you'll come up with like things like that. Normally I would take the time to go and make something in Figma or something better, but I think we have like 15 minutes left. So
yeah, let's speed round all the updates that you would do to make this a real bang up page.
Yeah. And were you planning on having a Q&A session during this at all?
No, we did have someone that suggested a good navigation bar, a better hero section, clear segmentation of content, adding a form, and just digging into, I think, a lot of the things that you're already seeing. I would say just breeze through making updates that you think would be cool and just talk out loud as you're doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I was spending a little bit too much time explaining every little thing, but I think not everyone's going to absorb it all anyway. And there's no way even I would remember most of the stuff that I said. So then I have here a recent blog post section, and I want to remove that padding on it. Is there a way to do that? Is it going to let me? No, it won't let me. So I'm stuck with this padding that it gives me. But what I maybe can do is add padding to this one. This is the blog email subscription. Under this content, I can edit the content. On the styles, I'm going to find alignment and spacing and add some padding there. Now, what's the default padding that we're using on all these? Let's look at here. Look at this column, alignment and spacing there. It's 16 pixels. Good. I like it. I like 16 pixels. It's a good default. So styles here, add 16. Now, I want to make sure that this header looks good on mobile. So I'm going to quickly switch here to edit for mobile. And now we see there's a little bit of a problem. This text here is up against the header. The header is way too large for mobile, and the pink background is in the way. So what do we do about that? Cool thing is, when you make updates to the mobile side, you actually can make some changes on the mobile side. Let's do 48 here. I like using multiples of 16. It makes things easy. And then on this text here, I'm gonna add some padding below that. And I actually really like using margins if I'm adding space between elements. So I do 24 just to give a little bit of space, or maybe a little bit more space. And I can't center this on mobile, because if I center the text on mobile, it'll be centered on desktop. So I'm just gonna have to live with that. But I still don't like the way the section looks. So what do we do about that? This is one trick I use when I don't want to develop a whole custom thing, which is probably why somebody created that hero section module in the first place, like this hero banner. They made this hero banner because they're able to code in maybe a flexbox or a grid or whatever. Oh, I actually really like the way this looks. It seems like you added the image of her there, but since she had the background removed.
When the image was originally put in, it showed up how you originally saw it, so we couldn't figure out how to get it to look like how that is.
In this case, I would just use a photo without the background removed. So let's just try this one. Does this one look good? I think that's a nice picture of her. Maybe not maybe the lighting on her face, or maybe like her expression isn't as inviting as this one in here. This would be a great for an about page or a supporting page, but not the first thing that people see. We'll remove that. But if you took this photo and added the background back in, I don't know, maybe it looks like there could be trees behind her or something like that. That would work well for this banner. But anyways, if I click the mobile view, you'll see that because somebody coded the module, and I removed the image, so that's gone. The way they coded the module is it's responsive, and so it stacks nicely. But we don't always have the luxury of having the module work the way we want it to. And so what I'll do is clone this section and make a mobile version. Now I'll go here into contents to keep myself organized. And now I have two sections here that are the same. So I'll name this one. Oh, wait, wrong one. I will rename it Desktop Hero. And I will rename this one Mobile Hero. So we have different ones now. So as I am on the mobile view or on the desktop view, I can click this little eye, hide on desktop. Now it's gone. And on this mobile view, I can click hide on mobile, or in this menu here. And now both of them are gone. So it's bugged, but I need to click hide on mobile again on this bottom section to get it to reappear. So then now it's missing from the desktop view, but in the desktop mode is where we're going to edit it. So what I'll do is just go here, remove the background. And so let's see what it looks like. So it looks okay. Maybe I'll go back into that column view and oops. And what happened? There we go. I'll go back into editing the column, find that column there, add a pink background to that one, right? And see what it looks like on mobile view. And it looks nice. So now we have a nice mobile version and a desktop version, and we can hide this one on desktop. So there we go. And that's pretty much it for that area. In this spot, and is where I would add a couple of extra things. I think this section pre-made seems pretty good. Let's see what it does. So here on the side, it looks like it does not look at all what the preview was showing here. So never mind. Let's not use that. Let's see what modules there are, because as this LinkedIn user has said in the chat, I really like, I really like their comments. I feel like this is a lot of what I would do. A good navigation bar, a better hero section. Yeah, clear segmentation, a comment, a form, but also the purpose, problem, solution, etc. This is great. This is something that I think every homepage needs to have, every single website needs to have, because a website is a digital salesperson. That's really what it is for most things like this, especially almost every HubSpot website is just a salesperson that doesn't sleep and what can always sell. So what's going on in this section here? Can I add stuff to it? Not really, because the area for drag and dropping is really small. So get rid of that, go back to add layouts, and let's add maybe a 3-column section, right? In each section, I can add some modules. So one I would do is rich text, and then I would also do an image for each one. And I think it's under media. And I can drag it up above that and have some shortcuts to add text immediately to stuff, but I just placeholder text. And for images, we don't really have images here yet. So let's do icons instead. How about we, under media, we look and find icon. And these icons will, I guess, take on the color of your theme, but you can add like different styles. And I want to make them centered, and I want to change the icon. So I'll just pick something random because it's a time crunch. Yeah, sure. Let's do fire. Accessibility options. This is new, but also good to set a purpose. If it's decorative, it's ignored by screen readers. If it's informative, you should give it a description. I think this one is just decorative. It's just a fire symbol, so we don't really need anything. So we'll put that there and click to update the changes. And so now we have this. I don't really like that too much, so I think I'm going to make these columns a little bit narrower. I'm going to select the rich text, go to styles, alignment and spacing, and add some spacing on both sides there. And I think I want to make the icon bigger. So what's that size going to be? Let's try 60. Let's see what happens if we do 60. It might be a little too small.
And then would you just clone that and drag and drop it into the other two once you format it how you like it?
Exactly. I just want to make it a little bit bigger. Let's try 90. If 90 didn't work, I would have tried 120. I like 90. 90 is fine. And you can pick different icons. This is just to do it quickly. But yeah, now you can delete these parts, select the column, make sure you got the column selected, and click clone, and then click clone again. So now you have a 3-column icon section. And one thing I forgot to do was add spacing at the bottom of each one, but I can do that really quickly. Spacing, margin below. Let's do 48. Apply changes.
And so once these updates are done to this section, which I really like what you've done here aesthetically, I'm curious because I know at the beginning of the episode you mentioned that there was a logo at the top, the one in the header that maybe ought to be resized or adjusted a bit. And so I'm curious if there's anything you would do to that.
Yeah, I would.
I'm wondering if this is that cropping principle we talked about earlier.
Yeah, let's go do that now. We got 6 minutes left. So we're gonna speed run the rest of this. So what I'm gonna do is get rid of the logo. We don't need it. Can I get rid of the logo?
Should be a way to. I think you have to click apply changes maybe.
No, because what I want to do is make it not a button whatsoever. Looks like I can't. So I guess we'll have to do that. I guess we'll have to do something there. Let's try and see if we can just crop out the text. I'm going to click clone and edit and then crop out the text here, because that's what I was going to do. I was going to just type in a text version of the logo. And it's hard to see where I have the edges here. So I will zoom in a little bit and see, does that look okay? There's some of the T is getting cut off. So let's go up above, and that looks fine. Okay, save new image and give it an alt text. If you ever make an image with text in it, always add that text to its alt, because otherwise a screen reader or Google does not know what the image says. Like, this just has not, I think optical character recognition is a thing, but it's just not really widely used by a lot of these systems and search engines and screen readers. And so now we have the logo is just, and what's really important for us here is going to be the height. The width usually doesn't matter so much, but the height is pretty important. Usually I stick to a height of 75 for most logos, and make sure the link is correct. I'll apply the changes and see what that does. So that's huge. I actually like it because you're making it the front and center, and I think it works with the rest of the layout pretty well. And then you have here below that, that's where your menu goes. What you could do is also do logo left, which is what a lot of people do. But I think having it centered like that makes it look really unique. It makes it stand out from other websites. And so because this logo is so wide and so short vertically, it adds like a nice layout to it. And so let's just check on the mobile version. You cannot see that logo. So let's fix that. I'm going to publish this to all assets. We're going to have to go into the code here to fix it. And for the last thing I'm going to do is help you guys to make sure this logo looks good. Okay. I'm going to open this in a new tab and then open up StyleBot.
And while you're doing that, I'm curious, is it then redundant probably to have the naming twice, right? So in that section in the hero, that probably ought to be replaced with a CTA or some kind of
Yes.
actual.
That's a great call. I just noticed that. Yes, absolutely.
Which will be in part 2 of this episode.
So because of StyleBot, it's not registering that my browser is actually a mobile size here. So I have to do this in DevTools instead. And so what I'll do is right click and inspect, and then shrink the size until I see the logo just completely change. And so I will right click on the logo and inspect there. And so I see here, logo image, where is it getting its height and width? Why is it so small? What's going on here? Under the styles here, sometimes this section may have a ton of stuff going on. So you can always click computed, and this will be like, what is the final values for that element? And I'll take a look and see max width is going to be 100%. Okay, that's fine. The width, 120 pixels. That's not the width we had originally. It was something crazy. So let's click the arrow, and we're going to take a look and see, this is controlling the size. How much do we want it? We want maybe 500 pixels. That's a little better. And if I hold a shift and press down or up on the keys, arrow keys, I can make fine adjustments there with the numbers selected. That looks a lot better to me, in my opinion. So now what we have to do is go hunt down where this code lives. Okay. So I'm gonna click here, or I'm gonna look here and see that this says main.min.css. And if I hover, you can't see this through the screen share, but as I hover, I can see the exact URL for where this file is. So what it says here is this is under marketplace, fastest themes, fitness club /css/main.min. I will make sure I find this at media max width query. Look at the header logo image, right click, copy, and then let's go to HubSpot and let's open up the design manager so we can fix that logo.
Mark, coming into today's episode, I think you probably had probably more experience with this type of stuff than I did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. So fun story. At one of my previous companies, the website was written in Gatsby, which is basically written in React. There was no CMS. It was hard coded, which meant there couldn't ever really be any revisions made. And this was very frustrating. Without anyone knowing, I went and over the course of about 2 months, remade the entire website using HubSpot CMS. And so I became intimately familiar with all of the ins and outs of this tool. It seems like it hasn't changed all that much since then. It looks like the UI has been updated a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of, even the good thing about HubSpot CMS is that one, with these templates that are provided, anyone can use it. But you can also basically create your own theme that's you can make reusable elements that are drag and drop. You can create your own kind of drag and drop website builder, and it's pretty cool. It takes a lot of work, but I learned a lot through that process, which is looking at what we're looking at right now is the source code. HubSpot CMS uses a templating language called Jinja, or it's called Hubble, but it's based on Jinja, or something like WordPress uses something like PHP.
The good thing about uses Jinja is that ChatGPT is familiar with it. And so it knows Hubble, but it also knows Jinja, and it's good. It can write code for you for modules.
Yeah.
Here, if you can't find like where the code lives for the page you're on, you click settings and then click edit this template. And what we need to do actually is we can't edit this code file. So we're going to need to create a child theme. So I'm going to right click on this. This is the theme here, is Fitness Club. And we're going to click create child theme. And we'll call it Fitness Club Child. Name it whatever you want. And this is what we'll be putting our styles into, is child.css. So create child theme. Okay, all good. Let's click into child.css. This is where we'll add like our overrides. So I'll go back to that page that we were on and look at where that logo was being controlled. Look at the mobile view and highlight the logo, because only under the mobile width is that rule going to show up. So we're going to copy, look at this one here. Is this the width? We're going to copy this rule. Is it showing when I'm right clicking? On the screen share, it's not showing I'm right clicking. So I right click and there's an option that says copy rule. And I copied the rule, go back to the design manager and paste. So it didn't give me the media query. The media query is this little bit right here. It is at media max width 599. So I'm going to copy and paste that in there as well, and then wrap our new CSS with brackets. And all I want to do is change the 250 to 450 on the mobile view. So this is telling the browser like only below at the very maximum, only below 599 pixels, make the logo this size. And sometimes you may want to include an important rule if it doesn't work. So I'll just add that because we're at a lack of time. Click publish the changes and then go back to edit the page, refresh, and we may need to change this page to the new theme for that to work. So let's see, that didn't do anything. So we'll click settings and then use different template. And let's see, will it let us use the same template in a new child? There's Fitness Club Child, set as active theme. There's the template there. I think we're using what, homepage image banner. That's probably it. So we'll preview it and see, is the content still there? Yeah, the content is still there, but our header is swapped because the header is global to that theme. So we can fix that. That's okay. Because what's important is that we have the new CSS style applied to it. Let's go back and edit the logo real quick. And I'm not going to add the menu items, but we will edit the logo.
Yeah, because even when I pulled it on mobile real quick, the text was still smaller on mobile.
Let's see, did that do what we want it to do? And then logo centered. So now let's see. Look, now the logo is a lot bigger on the mobile version. We'll click publish to one asset, return to the page editor, and let's see what happened there. So now this is full width, and on mobile, it's full width. And I don't like this, that button is there. So just to save time, I'm going to add on the logo, padding bottom, 24 pixels, save that, and then refresh and see what happens. So now we have space between the menu and the logo. And if I had more time, I would center this menu button here or just put it here to the right. But yeah, hopefully that gives everybody a little bit more idea as to what kind of things you can do with HubSpot with just the free tools. Like this website here, we made it pretty quickly in about an hour. We made it look a lot nicer. We improved things a little bit. If I wanted to make the font sizes bigger, I would go into settings, the actual theme settings themselves, which is going to be under HubSpot settings, and then content, themes, and there it is. There's our child theme. That's the one we want to edit from now on. We're going to view the theme, and here is a bunch of different settings that you can use to edit things like the colors, the default font sizes, the spacings, the shadows, lots of different stuff that is on the theme. This is where you're going to edit a lot of it. So we'll do typography, and then body, maybe make the font size a little bit bigger.
And quick call out. So the child theme, does that only apply to mobile? Essentially, we broke mobile and desktop into two separate themes, or has that replaced now essentially the primary theme?
Yeah, now it's replaced the primary theme because this is a marketplace theme. It came from HubSpot Marketplace. You're not allowed to make code edits to it without making a child theme.
Got it.
So if you ever want to go in here to Design Manager and modify stuff, you have to add it to the child theme. And the theme itself actually has like very basic bare bones structure. So if you ever find yourself wanting to edit a file from the original theme, you can find it in there and right click on the asset and click clone to child theme. And that'll let you add it there. The cool thing is this is a child theme. It's still using all these files, but we just don't need to edit. We only need to edit the ones that we're going to clone. So now I have this module here in my child theme, and I can edit this one to my heart's content. I can make changes to it, do whatever I want.
Super cool. Few key takeaways from our conversation today. First and foremost, just when it comes to editing a website, it's never as simple as changing a button or cropping a logo, right? There's so much that goes into getting it to work on desktop versus on mobile. The other huge thing for me was just the fact that even with the free version, there's so much that when you know what you're doing, you can get really granular with it. It was just so cool seeing you be able to go in, clone the theme, and then get more technical compared to what HubSpot would probably have you think you can do just from the outset. So really cool stuff. Thank you so much, Sasha. This was really cool. It was a lot of fun to see you breaking it down and just talking through everything.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And for those who aren't super familiar, these episodes do air on LinkedIn. They air live on LinkedIn, but they're also put on Spotify and YouTube. So if you haven't seen our previous episodes, make sure you check out the other ones on Spotify and YouTube as they continue to air. If you're not familiar with the HubSpot admin user group, make sure you check out our friends Kyle Jepson, Deanna Gloff. They host that Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time every single week, and they have wonderful guests on there. And finally, if you're not already in the Sprocketeer community in Slack, make sure you check us out there. Links to all of this is going to be in the show notes. But Sasha, thank you again for coming on today. And Mark, as always, wonderful to do this with you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Sprocket on.
Guys, happy 4th of July, too.